Devan Murugan, we are hearing some of the reaction there coming through from some of the political parties, mostly around the relief, the tax relief.
Yes, indeed, Bradian. Good afternoon. I mean, this has to be a big relief for consumers. We heard ahead of this budget that people were asking for relief on the petrol side. They were asking for relief on the tax side, and we got some. But I want to bring in Isaah Mhlanga. He's the chief economist at Alexander Forbes. I mean, here we have a scenario, good afternoon, Isaah, where that 180 billion rand more than we had anticipated in January brought a silver lining to the finance minister this afternoon, isn't it? And we'll get into the fact that it might not be manageable in the medium term going forward, but it certainly was a silver lining, wasn't it? He's got money now for a few things, at least in the short term.
Absolutely. It is a good budget. 182 billion rand better than expected relative to budget last year. It means we can pay for the extension of the COVID relief grant, which cost about 44 billion. We can also pay for the public sector wage agreement from 2021, which is around 20.5 billion, and still leave enough funds to reduce our deficit, which means debt issuance is going to reduce. So we are going to consolidate our fiscals, which means the debt to GDP ratio peaks at 75% of GDP a year earlier than what was projected, which should be good for markets. But also the one important thing, we were promised a 1 percentage point reduction in corporate income tax in the 2021 budget. It has now been delivered. That has been announced. Corporate income tax are going down by 1 percentage point, which should be positive for business confidence.
And I tell you why that could be important from my perspective, because coming out of the SONA, we've heard the president declare, in not so many words or in many words, that the private sector is responsible for job creation in this country. And I think many people should realize the importance of corporate tax dropping down by 1 percentage point. Is it enough, though, to make businesses build up factories, start creating jobs, so we don't have an enormous reliance on grants in this country? I suppose that percentage drop on corporate tax makes a difference, doesn't it?
It makes a difference, but in itself it's not going to be enough. We need more than just, a reduction in corporate income tax. We need the barriers to how business operate to be reduced. But we also had an employment incentive, a tax incentive that was announced to make sure that businesses can employ young people at a lesser cost. That should help on the employment side. But beyond the tax, we need to see the infrastructure being implemented, all the economic reforms being implemented, which should then boost FX investment going forward. But I think this budget puts action to the words of the president that says businesses should be at the center of how we revive this economy. We now have action that speak to business directly in the sense of the corporate income tax reduction.
Okay. Thank you very much indeed, Isaah Mhlanga, there from the chief economist at Alexander Forbes.